This is Sound Experience, the show that explores the vast world of audio production through the experiences of our guest and the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer Tim Dolbear.
Hey, this is Tim, coming to you live from Eclectica Studios in Austin, Texas. Welcome to Sound Experience. I am your host, and I'm looking forward to diving in deep with our guest today about all kinds of studio stuff, gear, and all kinds of cool things. But before we get started, real quick shout-out to a couple of our sponsors, Blackbird Academy, hands-on training for studio and live sound. Great River Electronics, we're making the best electronics for preamps and EQs and stuff on the planet, as well as Source Connect by Source Element, who allows us to sync up to the radio station and such. And give you a little calendar rundown of what's coming up over the next few weeks. Coming up next week, we have from Mix Magazine, the technical editor and the studio guru, Kevin Becca, will be joining me. And it's going to be just a great talk. We're going to dive in really deep to all the studio stuff. We're going to, it'll be deep. Hopefully you guys send in questions and stuff, too, because he is just an incredible wealth of knowledge when it comes to studio. Currently, he's also teaching at Blackbird Academy. He's one of the studio professors there. And then August 8th, we have producer-engineer who's worked with Jeffrey Osborne, George Duke, Miles Davis, Anita Baker, many, many others. He's a great guy, good friend of mine named Eric Zobler, and he will be on with us just giving us experiences, sound experiences, all the different things that he's done over the last few years. So that'll be a really good show. That's coming up on August 8th. So thank you for all the emails and messages of support. Thank you for all the different things that people are messaging me on Facebook and posting on Facebook. It's obviously a great way to connect with us on the show and to send in questions, comments, concerns, anything like that. I get questions from people all the time, whether it's for the show or if it's just plain studio stuff. And I encourage you always reach out. You can find me on Facebook under strictly Tim Dolbear. You can also find me at timdolbear.com, as well as obviously the entertalkradio.com website, which most likely you are at right now if you're listening to me. But always reach out, check out my blog. Latest blog right now, we have, I just posted one about getting our rebuild MCI Sony quarter-inch mastering deck up and running, and we are in the final phase of that. So all kinds of really cool things on that to read. I think it's like part 5. So if you haven't been following along, if you scroll down through the blog, you'll see all the different ones. Everything from it being wrecked and shipping to smoke in the studio when it started toasting resistors and stuff. All kinds of fun things that you want happening in your studio. But now it's up and running. It's totally working. We're just waiting for the alignment tape to show up, and we will be up and running with that machine. So it was a really fun ride. So check out my blog. Again, you can find links to that from timdolbear.com as well as through the Entertalk Radio /Sound Experience website. It has links and updates for my blog, as well as a Twitter feed, which will send you back to the blog also. So that's the latest from here. We are having a couple technical issues today, so if things go blank or get funky, just ignore it. It's just the way of the world and how things are. We do our best with what we can sometimes, so we all know how that goes. So on the show today, we have a major staple in the music industry, someone who, if you don't know him by name, you should, and hopefully within a few minutes you will. But he has been a editor for many of the major magazines like EQ and such that we all read. Hopefully you're reading them because these magazines are full of a wealth of information. But he's written for every major recording and instrument magazine for years. He's also all over Harmony Central. And he also just started doing some work with Gibson. I believe he's a VP now working for Gibson. So welcome to the show, Craig Anderton.
I think he's calling in just now. Hold on just a minute. No,
my producer has chimed in. All right, cool.
No, actually, sorry. That's not him.
Okay.
Your guest has gone missing.
My guest has gone missing. Well, that's how it goes with live radio sometimes. So, okay, well, let's dive into a couple questions. One of the questions I got this week was, how did I get into mastering, since obviously mastering tends to be more of a voodoo type craft to get into at this point. Everyone dabbles in it a little bit now, but obviously when I started 20 plus years ago, not everybody did it. And I actually got into mastering because I was frustrated with what some mastering engineers that I had used at the time had done to my mixes and had done to my projects. So it was out of necessity. If you take your car to a mechanic and they screw up your car in a different way when you had them to strictly check the transmission, and then suddenly something else is broken and they just kind of look at you and give you a shrug, you tend to learn how to start fixing the car yourself. And that's really how I got into mastering. How I actually learned how to do it was following what other mastering engineers had done, but just tweaking it and doing things the way I'd like to do them, the way I thought they should be presented. I had one project that I did in the, early 2000s, I think, was the last time that I had a project that went to a separate mastering engineer at that point. For a while, that's all I did was my own mastering through the early 2000s. But I had a project that I had done that went to a world-famous mastering engineer that had worked with all kinds of people. And even though I had produced, mixed, did everything on this, I also had a mastered version of it myself. The artist still decided they wanted to take it to this other person because of their name, and they absolutely destroyed my mixes, smashed them, destroyed them. And obviously getting things loud is important, and getting things punchy and presented, that all is obviously important in what you want to be doing with your mixes and stuff and mastering. But you want to make sure it's at a point where you're not, the mixes just break down, and as I call it, they just fart out when they get too squashed. When they get too smashed, everything just kind of falls apart. And so that's how this came back. And I was upset. It brought tears to my eyes. It was just, I'd never heard someone destroy my stuff as much as this had been destroyed. And at that point, I swore it was time to learn that craft. I had learned so many other parts of the craft of working in the studio, and I knew that this was something that I had to dive into. And so when I dived into mastering, it really took a long time to figure out that there's a big difference in mastering between slapping something on your mix bus or after the fact taking your 2-track and just slapping an L2 or some brick wall on it and just trying to get it loud. Because obviously through late 90s, through the early 2000s to 2010, up through kind of currently, the main gist has always been see how loud we can get it.
Hey, Tim.
It wasn't, yeah.
We got Craig on the phone for you whenever you're ready.
Fantastic. Well, let me finish that thought real fast.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I started really hanging out with some major mastering engineers and picking their brains and learning from them that mastering, the main thing about it was to make sure that it was presented, the songs and mixes were presented correctly. And that's really the main thing you should focus if you're going to try mastering your own things, is how you take that 2-track mix and how you present it. So it's presented in a fashion that complements it and brings the song to life and is a great experience for the listener. It's not about getting it loud. It's just about presenting it. The mix engineer has painted a picture and hands it to a mastering engineer, and the mastering engineer hangs it on a wall and positions the lighting in the art room to be correct on that painting. That's really where it's all about. So that's really how I got into mastering. So without any further ado, let's welcome our guest. Craig, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I couldn't agree more about mastering, man. I think that what mastering really needs to do is amplify what the artist is trying to convey,
Right.
and hopefully it was conveyed properly in the mix. So if mastering can enhance what that mix does by another 15 or 20%, then I think it's really accomplished, what it's set out to do. And I also, one of the other things I really believe in is that if you listen to I've mastered like hundreds of tracks and stuff,
right.
And if you listen to them, there's no sound that I impart to them. There's no like Craig Anderton sound or something. I just,
right.
It's whatever the track requires. The other thing I found is that, there are maybe, 10, 15 valid ways to master something,
Mm-hmm.
where it's acceptable from a sonic standpoint, but maybe the artist has a particular idea of where they want it to go. There was one cut that I received to master from this lady who was about to leave for Italy, and then she went offline, and I couldn't interact with her to find out exactly what kind of approach she wanted. And the track could have been mastered either as more of a club mix type thing, sort of like chill with a beat by bringing up the kick a little bit more of the percussion stuff in the high end, or it could have been done as more of an ambient type of piece. And I had no clue which way she wanted it, so I just did both versions. And when she came back, I said, well, I had no idea what you had in mind, but which one did you like? And she ended up using both of them and having like alternate masters. So,
great.
It's really something. I mean, I love mastering because it's like, you sort of get this present for Christmas and you open it up and you listen to it and you try to think, okay, what can I do to like make this wonderful? And it's fun. And I love dealing with the artists on it too, because they have things they want to convey, and it's so gratifying. Well, I'm sure you know this. It's so gratifying when the artist comes back to you and goes, "Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. Thank you so much." You feel like you've really accomplished something.
Exactly, and that's why we have like 20 seconds left in this segment. But that's why I use that metaphor of an art gallery, because the artist, the producer, the arranger, the mix engineer have painted this picture, and it's the mastering engineer to set back and put that framed picture on the wall and present it with the correct lighting. And there's 15 different types of lighting you could probably do to it. So it's all about the mastering engineer's opinion. So we'll be right back with more about this, and we'll dive into some other stuff. You're listening to Sound Experience, powered by AirTalk Radio, the voice of music biz.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element, affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to record on a Grammy award-winning album? Have you ever wondered what it's like to play in front of a stadium crowd? Have you ever wondered what it's like to be on a world tour? I'm Jackie Bertoni, and I've played with the who's who in the music industry, and I've toured the world. Come join my world, Behind the Velvet Rope, and get into the groove on Jackie's Groove. Live 2 p.m. Mondays and available 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit mozeguitars.com or their Facebook page, mozeguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect.
This is Sound Experience, the show that explores the vast world of audio production through the experiences of our guest and the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer Tim Dolbear.
Hey, welcome back to Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, the voice of the music biz. I am your host, Tim Dolbear. Welcome back. We are talking with Craig Anderton. Craig, why don't you fill us in on your history? There's a lot of people out there listening that don't necessarily know you beyond the voice of a couple different magazines and various articles, when we all know, or at least I know, that you go really deeply into the world of recording.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a while. I'll keep it short. First of all, it's great to talk to you again, Tim. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a little bit late. I was actually supposed to be home by now, but there was a scheduling issue with somebody here, and had to deal with that. So I still haven't left the office yet. But anyway.
We're all good.
But okay, yeah, I'm sorry about that. But anyway, yeah, I guess I started playing. I started playing for money when I was 12, doing concerts, and I was in a group called Mandrake back in the '60s. We did 3 albums. We toured, played Carnegie Hall, or as my daughter once said to me, "Hey, Craig, do you know that there's," or "Hey, Dad, actually, hey, Dad, you know there's like an internet shrine to Mandrake on the net somewhere?" And it's like, no. So we had sort of a cult following, and some of those albums still go for a lot of money if you have a mint one sitting around. Then in the '70s, I got into doing studio work in New York. Did a lot of work for CBS. For Metro Media, a bunch of the other labels at the time, and then segued more and more into production, and for some reason got sort of into a classical mode. I've done quite a few classical music projects, and then in the '80s it was more, had a string of new age productions, and the reason I got into that was kind of funny, so I think this is probably worth describing. There was an artist named David Arkenstone, who was really good. He'd been signed by Narada Records. And the producer who worked with him was like a video guy. The engineer was working with him, worked with Jerry Harrison and Talking Heads, and the producer kept talking in visual terms. I want the sound more blue, or can you make this more green, or, I need it brighter, or whatever. And the engineer called me up and basically said, can you help? Can you help translate? So I went there, and I actually was sort of the translator. So he said, the cello, it needs a little orange. It needs a little orange. And I'd say, well, okay, so try boosting the mid-range just a little bit around 500 hertz, and you boost it around 500. Oh, yeah, great, okay. So that was one of the more unusual projects, but that led to doing a lot more of them. And I guess that sort of culminated in 1989 when a solo album called Forward Motion came out. And it did pretty well. It was done with Spencer Brewer, who had sold a bunch of new age type albums. Then in the 90s, I got very much, I'd been doing dance music for quite some time. In the 80s, I did a thing called, I did an album called Trances and Dances that I couldn't sell. I think it was a little too electronic for that time. But then in the 90s, I started working a lot with a group over in Germany called Reisdorf Force, and another one called Air Liquide, which is actually pretty big. And got very involved in the whole German electronic DJ type of scene, but I was playing guitar with it. So it was, I kind of joke with people that I'm the world's oldest living techno guitarist, but or maybe the world's only living techno guitarist, I'm not sure. But it was, I was using adrenaline, the Roger Lynn adrenaline to do rhythmic things, and I had a MIDI cable coming from the MPC, from the main guy's MPC, guy named Dr. Walker, who's an incredible musician. So he's the MIDI, and I'd sync to it, and so I could play these like really rhythmic guitar parts. And it's pretty novel because, generally guitars weren't used in that context, and when they weren't used in such a rhythmic context. I also used vocoding with it, or I should say cross-synthesis, where I'd use the drums to vocode the guitar and things like that. So it wasn't like the Daft Punk vocals thing. It was actually drums modulating guitar. And so that's what happened musically pretty much. That kind of petered out around the mid-2000s when I moved to Santa Fe. And I joined Harmony Central at the time. And of course, all this time I'd also been writing articles. I started writing articles when I was 16 and was published in, Popular Electronics and things like that. But when I moved to Santa Fe, that's when I picked up doing classical projects again. I did one with Nestor Oski, who's an Argentinian guitar player, and two with the harpsichord is Kathleen McIntosh, and also the IHM Vocal Quartet, those were really a gas. And one of the things I really liked about the one with Kathleen was she was not adverse to trying different techniques. So I close mic'd the harpsichord. I used kind of rock and roll miking techniques on the harpsichord. It just sounded great. I mean, I just loved the way it sounded, and she loved the way it sounded, and so I had a lot of fun with that. So those are sort of the highlights. I mean, I just finished my next album. It's called Neo, which is short for Neo Psychedelic Music for the 21st Century, and it's pretty psychedelic. And I just finished mastering it, and I'm reworking it to do the videos. I posted the drafts online at my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/the Craig Anderton, because someone else had already taken Craig Anderton, so I'm the Craig Anderton. Okay. But all the songs are up there with videos, and I posted a preview link to the album, which isn't public yet, but I'll eventually be putting it up there, as well as on craiganderton.com, which is under construction. And these days, I accepted a job at Gibson 3 years ago. I've been consulting to them for years. They kept wanting me to join the company. And I was like, no, I have a career. I'm fine. Thanks anyway. I'm flattered. But then they were pretty insistent, and I thought, this would be kind of cool. So I'm working at Gibson, and I have to say it's kind of like a dream gig because I work with all the brands. So I get to do recording things, guitar things, speaker things, microphone things. All my addictions are covered. So that's sort of the short form.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I read about your job at Gibson, it said something VP of something and product evangelist.
Yeah, I'm called the Chief Magic Officer around here. That's sort of my nickname. Cool. The official title is Executive Vice President, Gibson Evangelist. But it's really, it runs the gamut. I've actually done some mergers and acquisitions, which amazed me because I didn't even know I could do those kinds of things. But then I write ad copy for the web. I've actually, one of my circuits is in the new Les Paul Standard and Les Paul Studio. It's a transient control thing that's pretty cool. And then, of course, we bought Harmony Central, so now I'm back doing Harmony Central things again. And I even came up with a patented process, which is going through patent filing right now. So it's a whole bunch of different things. And it's really a blast. I mean, I've never had a playground this big to play in before,
Yeah, you're in every single area. I know when I worked with Magix, it's a German company as opposed to American, but if you had a job, you were pigeonholed into one area and that's it. And cross-pollinating, for lack of a better term, never happened. You were never across to anything else.
Well, that's the reason why I'm
exciting.
Here. Yeah, the reason why I'm here is to make those kinds of links, to get Sonar, to get the Cakewalk guys talking with the Cakewalk, with the Tascam people about the interfaces and making that process work better. And I still do quite a few workshops and seminars, and I do the trade shows. It's kind of great. I've been given a lot of latitude here because part of why I'm here is to help grow the industry and get people excited about music. Because as you know, I'm a lifer. I'm really excited about music. So that's not a bad job description. I mean,
No, it's not.
One of the things when we bought Harmony Central, all the guys were on a phone conversation with Henry, and Henry said, "Okay, here are the requirements for the job." And of course, everybody's thinking, "Oh no, this is going to be, uh-oh." And he says,
corporate.
"You got to have fun because if you're not having fun, you won't be able to convey that it's fun doing all this stuff." He says, "So I want you to have fun. I want you to be neutral. I want you to be public facing, and I want you to be objective." And those were the list of requirements for Harmony Central.
That's cool. Did you have anything to do with the decision to have Sonar and Tascam come on board then?
Actually, when I joined Gibson, Tascam was just happening at the time. I was involved a little bit in the acquisition process, but only in terms of doing research and some things like that. I didn't put the deal together or anything. But when I saw that Tascam was going to become a part of Gibson, that's what tipped me over into taking the gig because I thought, okay, I want my life to be more than guitars. Then when the way the Sonar thing came up was, Henry's a Sonar user. He's been using Cakewalk software before I did. And he was using Sonar. He's a huge Sonar fan. When I first visited him, I went down to his studio. He booted up his computer. There was Sonar. It's like, okay, I can have a conversation with this guy, because I used Sonar the second. I used Sonar the second it came out in 2000. It was perfect. It was exactly what I needed. So when the opportunity came up to buy the company, I was told about it. I went to Henry. I said, hey, what do you think? And so one thing led to another, and now we own Cakewalk. And I got to tell you, it's doing very, very well. This is definitely a golden time for Cakewalk, so that's great.
And I want to dive in a little bit deeper in the next segment, which we have coming up on a break in about a minute. But I remember I started with Cakewalk when it was Cakewalk 3.0 on my Windows 3.1 computer. That was my first sequencer MIDI thing. And using FSK or whatever it was called to lock up to my reel-to-reel machine back then. So
fun time,
crazy. And I stayed with Cakewalk all the way up until 99. At which point I jumped over to Logic and was a Logic user for 3 years. And I actually switched to Samplitude because of reading a review you had written about Samplitude, about all of your friends in Europe say we just buy a computer off the shelf and use Samplitude, and everything just works perfect. And I remember...
it's a great program. I mean, there's no question about it. It's Sonar is better suited to my needs, but that doesn't mean that it's not. That Samplitude, isn't a great program. And I'd like to talk. And when you get back from the break, there's a mastering technique I'd like to talk about with you as well. Let's get more into the nuts and bolts, because who cares about me, right? They can they can Google the name and find out all they need to know.
Now it's time to get a little more nerdy on it, geek out on it. So, okay, great. We're going into a break, and we'll be back in a couple minutes. This is Sound Experience powered by Intertalk Radio, your voice of the music biz. Be right back. Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. mozeguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element, affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to record on a Grammy award-winning album? Have you ever wondered what it's like to play in front of a stadium crowd? Have you ever wondered what it's like to be on a world tour? I'm Jackie Bertoni, and I've played with the who's who in the music industry, and I've toured the world. Come join my world, behind the velvet rope, and get into the groove on Jackie's Groove. Live 2 p.m. Mondays and available 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
This is Sound Experience, the show that explores the vast world of audio production through the experiences of our guest and the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer Tim Dolbear.
Hey, welcome back to the second half of Sound Experience. We are talking today with Craig Anderton, and we're going to dive into more of the studio stuff. We've been talking the background of various different things and talking a little bit about Sonar. And before we dive into the studio stuff, I was thinking during the break, I keep reading things about how Sonar is coming to the Mac.
Yes, it is.
That is a huge move.
Well,
very cool.
It's going to be a little while before it's fully baked. It's doing a full port is a fairly complex thing, but it's up and running now. The devil is in the details, as they say. I mean, it's up and running, and
right.
It's great. But the thing is that it will only run the Cakewalk plugins at the moment. It won't handle AUs, and it will only work with core audio. So if you have like special custom drivers for an interface or something, that needs to be resolved. But it's on the way, and it's actually further along than I thought it would be at this time. But I think it'll probably there'll be an alpha version coming in soon. I think August, September, something like that. And then we'll shake that out and then go into beta. And then eventually, as we find out what level of interest there is and work through things, there'll be the full port. So it is a big deal. And I mean, a lot of people already use Sonar on the Mac because they just use Boot Camp,
right,
or Parallels or something like that. So, but Cakewalk doesn't officially support it on the Mac because I think they don't want to have to deal with Mac questions like why don't my files show up when I'm running under Boot Camp and things like that. So, but yeah, it is a big deal, and it's gotten a much more enthusiastic response than I would have expected, frankly.
When I was a product specialist for Samplitude and Sequoia for 6 years, every single AES and every single NAMM show, 99 out of 100 questions were, "Is this on the Mac?"
Yeah.
And so this is really going to open it up for you guys. And of course, they had tried to port Samplitude and Sequoia, but failed miserably, and it never happened. But you guys are there and making it happen. I think you guys are going to storm the castle with it. It's really cool, really cool. So, okay, you had mentioned wanting to talk some mastering stuff.
Yeah, I just it is an issue with, you do need to be, quote, competitive in terms of loudness, especially in a situation where you're being sequenced in a playlist by a DJ and you can't have like a massive volume drop or something like that. And the other thing is, there are things that compensate automatically for level now on televisions and things like that, but they just sound awful to my ears. So a lot of times artists would come to me and they'd want it to be really loud. So there's two interesting things about that. One is I would give them the squashed mix, but then I'd also give them the master the squashed master, but then I would also do a master the way that I wanted to hear it, and I'd give them a choice. And 9 times out of 10, they took the one with a little more dynamic range. It hadn't occurred to them that you can just turn up the volume control. But the other thing is that I have some techniques that I use when mastering, and this is what I want to mention.
Sure.
What I like to do is I go through the file, and a lot of times you'll find what I call rogue peaks. In other words, there are peaks in the material that are considerably louder than something else, like when all the notes have transients on the same note or something like that, and you get this master. You get this really big peak, and so if you try to limit to accommodate that peak, it'll sound really, squashed, and you have look-ahead issues and things like that. So you have to look ahead, which you can normally compensate for. But then you'll have some kind of breathing things. I mean, it's really hard to get it artifact free when you have that big of a peak. And then the other things that are lower, the other levels that are lower, won't be affected by the limiter. So now you bring it down even further, and that's what turns into a mess. So what I do is I find where the peaks are, and Sonar has a very convenient feature for this, where it will actually jump to where the peaks are in the track. WaveLab will do that too. I'm sure a bunch of DAWs will, but I'm just really familiar with how to do it with Sonar. I'll find that peak. I'll draw a region around half cycle and bring it down by like 3 or 4 dB. And I'll do that for all the rogue peaks. So now I've managed to take them all down by 3 dB. I've opened up 3 dB of headroom without really affecting the dynamics. And the thing is that half cycle goes by so fast, you don't even really know that anything's happened to it. And now I can like raise the whole thing up 3 dB, get a greater perceived level, but without any artifacts and without any nasty effects. Now, if I add maybe just a few dB of limiting or multiband compression or whatever is appropriate for the song, it will sound much less processed. It will not sound squashed, but it will be competitive in terms of loudness with things that are. And as a side bonus, you know how when you squash things too much, they actually start sounding small past a certain point. It won't sound small when it has those dynamics. So that's just something that I've found that works really well when you need to get a competitive master in terms of loudness but preserve the dynamics.
So when you're mixing, stuff that you are working on in mixing, what's in your mix bus?
Well, nothing really, except for because I still treat mastering as a separate process.
Me too.
If I put anything in the mix bus at all, it'll be I will put in something like a Waves multiband maximizer, just so that I have a hint of what it's going to be like, and so I can switch that in and out. And the other thing is I have a plug-in that, well, I don't need it anymore. I moved to a new place where I don't have to compensate for room acoustics. But in the place I was in before, I had to compensate for some room acoustic stuff in the low end. So I had an EQ setting that would compensate for that, and I would leave that in when I was mixing and then take it out when I was rendering. But aside from a little bit of dynamics, just so that, like I said, so I have an idea of what it's going to sound like when I'm mastering, I really don't have anything in the mix bus at all. Maybe a little EQ if it needs it.
So mostly just stuff there for testing and taking care of stuff, but all that stuff gets turned off when you're running off a mix.
Yeah, and then after I run off the mix, then I'll bring it in. And I do my album assembly in Studio One. And I mean, I like Studio One. I think it's a cool program in general. It's as a DAW, it doesn't cover some of the bases that Sonar covers, but in terms of album assembly, It's a really, as far as I'm concerned, it's a great program for that. I used to use CD Architect, but Studio One is just, it's got better analytics and measuring, things like that. So typically what I'll do is I'll bring the mixed tracks into that, and I do use a lot of crossfades and things, so it gets a little hairy sometimes because Studio One really isn't set up to do a lot of the things that I try to do. So what I end up having to do is assemble stuff in Studio One, bring it back into Sonar, tweak some of the crossfades and other things that make it a continuous listening experience, then put it back into Studio One, put the PQ codes in and create a DDP, for mastering. But it's since I don't really need to do too much in terms of the mastering, it's mostly just EQ and a little bit of final dynamics on the master bus. I really don't have to do much, so it's a great program for that.
Fantastic. What are you doing mostly now, music-wise? Is it your own stuff, or are you doing projects that are coming from the outside?
It varies. Right now, the album that I've been working on, I got to tell you, I've been working on it for years. Not because I couldn't, disconnect from it, just because I've been so busy. And that's been a very interesting mastering project because they were recorded at different times, different instrumentation, in different studios, different things. So trying to get a cohesive sound out of it has been somewhat of a challenge. It's the same kind of mastering as when you have to do a compilation album and you try to make all these things sound like they were sort of done at least in the same century, So, but on the other hand, I was able to take advantage of that in the sense that there's a really wide variety of material. I joke with people that, if you don't like a cut, just keep listening, because the next one will be totally different. So that's consumed a fair amount of time. But the other thing is I do quite a bit of commercial audio productions for some of the videos that Gibson does. That I did a bunch of videos for KRK for their speakers, for their website, and I do some of the soundtracks for Harmony Central, and so I do a fair amount of soundtrack work. And then in terms of mastering, I just don't have the time anymore to do the amount of mastering that I did before. So in that respect, I'm kind of like a retired doctor who still has his roster of patients but doesn't take any new patients. And then lately, it's been interesting. I've been getting people who've been wanting me to do mixes. I'm actually working on a project right now with Brian Hardgroove from Public Enemy. He's the band leader for Public Enemy, and with Stuart Copeland, drummer for the Police. And they have a project that they're doing called Audio Rhythm Theory, and I'm involved in that in terms of doing the production and the mixing. They really want me to participate on the mix because they like what I did with Neo. So that's another thing that's happening soon. But it's mostly it's Brian's project, really. It's based around a story that he's written, which would actually make a fantastic movie. And Stuart Copeland got involved with it, I think, just because Brian's such a great guy to work with. That if I was a drummer, I'd want to work with him. He's a great bass player. So it's a very exciting project, and it's very much in its embryonic stages. It'll probably take a long time before it's out into the world, but it's fascinating. So we'll see what happens with that.
That's cool. And here we come on to a break, so we'll be right back in a couple minutes and continue on this thread. So you're listening to Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio. I'm Tim Dolbear. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to record on a Grammy award-winning album? Have you ever wondered what it's like to play in front of a stadium crowd? Have you ever wondered what it's like to be on a world tour? I'm Jackie Bertoni, and I've played with the who's who in the music industry, and I've toured the world. Come join my world, behind the velvet rope, and get into the groove on Jackie's Groove. Live 2 p.m. Mondays and available 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element, affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page, mozeguitars.com, 619-698-1185. Hi,
I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
This is Sound Experience, the show that explores the vast world of audio production through the experiences of our guest and the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer Tim Dolbear.
Hey, welcome back to the last segment. I am Tim Dolbear, coming to you live from Eclectica Studios in Austin, Texas, and we are talking with Craig Anderton, who's live in Nashville, Tennessee, correct?
Yeah, you got it. At least this week.
All right, cool.
I travel a lot.
So how long have you lived in Nashville? How long have you lived out there?
Yeah, I relocated here when I joined Gibson, basically. But I've been coming here since the mid-'80s because I always got my stuff mastered here before I started doing my own mastering. And so I've been coming to Nashville and, doing the summer shows, NAMM shows, and all that. So at one point I realized I had more friends in Nashville than anywhere else, so it seemed logical to move here anyway. I just got a great place, too, so I'm settled in.
Right now, my wife is probably listening to the show laughing because we say the exact same thing. We have more friends in Nashville than we do here. So
yeah, it's a
maybe
great place,
the future is
don't
there.
Tell anybody. So, yeah, if you're ever in the vicinity, stop by. Hey, one thing I want to mention before I forget, which is if anybody wants to ask any questions or wants to follow up on things or discuss anything, I do have my Sound Studio and Stage forum on harmonycentral.com. And that's been, Sound Studio and Stage is actually, I think, the longest running musicians forum on the internet. It started in 1995, and it's still there. And it's not like most forums. I mean, it's a fairly cool bunch of people who really are interested in talking about technology and stuff like that, instead of making crass comments about the Kardashians or whatever. So it's a good group of people and some very, very knowledgeable folks. So if people want to discuss technology or get answers to things, just got a post in there where somebody wanted to know about the link function of a Roland KC300 keyboard amp, and we took care of that. So, it's again, harmonycentral.com. Just go to my forum.
Okay, cool. Great. And I'm on that, too. I've been on that for years, too. And,
there you go.
Very cool. Well, I have an interesting question for you. Now, you're always the person to go to and read about or read your writings for what's new, what's latest technology and latest trends and such. Instead of me asking you just, hey, what's the cool new, the box or plugin or whatever, now that DAWs do everything, what's next? Because if you look at all DAWs, they all basically do the same thing, different terminologies, and everything's gotten at that incredible level. What do you see as next in the trend of doing stuff? Obviously, vinyl's coming back. A lot more people, including myself, are jumping back into analog pieces. What do you see as the next trends?
Well, I can't tell you too much because there's some things that are going to be happening with Sonar that I really would rather not broadcast. But
it doesn't have to be about Sonar. It could be anything.
Well, yeah, but the thing is that these are general things that I think are so obvious that no one's thought of them. But I think there's a lot of room left in DAWs to do things of interest. I think that where DAWs have reached the end of the line is as emulations of physical recording. I think that they're, in terms of you open up Samplitude or Sonar or Logic or any of those guys, and you have the equivalent of a $500,000 studio 30 years ago or whatever, maybe even more recent than that. You've got a backline that they would kill for. You've got effects with the wazoo. You've got the equivalent of an MCI controller at your fingertips. I mean, you've got all that stuff. I think that has gone as far as DAWs can go in terms of recreating the studio experience on a computer. But believe me, there's a whole other area of exploration that is just not, for whatever reason, is not being explored. And I think that's hopefully where things are going to go next, at least long term. Short term, The thing about vinyl really interests me because, people say, well, digital recording isn't natural. And my response to that is, well, is dragging a rock through plastic with outrageous equalization curves coming and going natural? I really don't think so. I think measuring signals and reproducing them makes a lot more sense. But it's funny because I've given a seminar a couple of times called High Resolution Audio, So What? And the basic premise of that is that, record companies would love to have high-resolution audio take over the world, but people just really don't hear the difference. Now, what I have heard is there is a difference when you record at high-resolution audio with sounds that are created in the box because of oversampling issues and that kind of thing. A lot of plugins sound better at 96 kHz. A lot of instruments sound better at 96 kHz or even 192 Correct. Because of the harmonics interfering with the clock frequency and getting pulled over distortion. You know all that stuff. So I think that what people seek out in terms of what they don't like about digital is easily fixable if you can record at higher sample rates. Now, with Sonar has a feature called upsampling, which gives the benefits of recording at higher sample rates at lower sample rates. And when you apply that, it's been interesting. I've been applying that to mixes, and all of a sudden, the digital orneriness goes away. So I think the analog versus digital thing is ultimately going to come down on the side of digital as being better. Why people like vinyl is because, and again, this is my theory, why people like vinyl is because it's a more social experience. You can't stick a record inside of an iPhone and plug in earbuds. You got to move air on speakers. You really do. And if you're going to move air on speakers, there's going to be people there. And if not, you're getting the experience of air moving and actually influencing your body. When I go to I was at the International Music Summit in Ibiza, and when you go to clubs and things like that, the bass is actually pounding your body. You can really feel it. You'll never get that experience with earbuds and an iPhone. So there's also the thing about going through records at a record store. If you compare what a record store is compared to going on iTunes and looking for music, it's a very different experience. Yeah. It's a much more social thing. You have the artwork, you have the smell, you have the ritual. I always found it interesting that people would skip cuts on their vinyl records, and create their own sort of playlist manually by lifting up the tone arm. And as soon as you could program that on a CD player, people lost interest. They didn't do that anymore. They would listen to the whole CD and complain that it took too long. I don't want to listen to music for 70 minutes. But you never did that with records. You'd play one or two cuts on one side, flip it over, play a couple other cuts. So to me, what vinyl is a rebellion against the devaluation of music and the commoditization of music. People have this inherent sense, no, there's more to music than it just should be a soundtrack that you play in the background while you're vacuuming, And that's what I love about vinyl. So I want to see that value come back to music. And I think vinyl is the way that people are saying that.
Absolutely. I don't think I've ever heard that put better. That is just fast. That's going to leave me a lot to think about, too. Thank you so much. That is a great way. Wow. Because the fact of, yes, you have to actually play it over a stereo system, and the air is moving, and your body is actually affected by it. How much is your body affected by having two hard pieces of plastic jammed into your ears, hurting you while you're listening?
That costs 29 cents to manufacture.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's a scene in this seminar that I do where I show a picture. It's a shot of the Happy Days TV show where they're all assembled around a jukebox. And the caption on the picture is, this is from the diorama, Life in the Middle 50s. Back in those days, people would actually listen to music together, and it was a social thing.
Yep. Wow. Okay. Well, we have a little less than a minute left, so I want to thank you very much for coming on, and I would like to ask you to please come on again, because I still have a whole page worth of stuff. Always happens. I come up with too many questions. There's just too much stuff to talk about in too short a time.
Well, no, the problem is that I talk too much.
Yeah, it's talk radio, so it's okay. This is your place. It's perfect.
But I'd love to come on again. Anytime.
Great.
Anytime, Tim.
Great. Okay, then let me pass you some emails, and we'll get it set up. Can you give out your website one more time?
Yeah, there's the YouTube channel is YouTube/the Craig Anderton, all one word, .com. My upcoming website, which isn't there yet, is craiganderton.com. And then please visit my forum at harmonycentral.com. And that's pretty much where to find me.
Great. Thank you so much for being on. This is Sound Experience. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you giving us your time to listen in. And you can find all of those links also on our website, intertalkradio.com/Sound Experience. I am Tim Dolbear. Now, go make some music.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element, affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
Which sandwich is healthy and tasty? Which sandwich can come on bread or in a bowl? Which sandwich comes 51 different ways, so it's always your way? A which sandwich. Stop into our shop in Hazard Center. We're upstairs from the Hazard Center Digiplex. Bring in your movie ticket. We will add a free drink and chips to your sandwich order. Or order online at which.com, and we will have it ready and waiting. WHICH, which.com.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to record on a Grammy award-winning album? Have you ever wondered what it's like to play in front of a stadium crowd? Have you ever wondered what it's like to be on a world tour? I'm Jackie Bertoni, and I've played with the who's who in the music industry, and I've toured the world. Come join my world, behind the velvet rope, and get into the groove on Jackie's Groove. Live 2 p.m. Mondays and available 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. MOZEguitars.com, 619-698-1185.